thankful tonight for what God's done for me. A couple of weeks ago, I was going to do this, and I had thought about it, and I just didn't feel led to. And then the other day, I was talking to somebody, and they was talking to me about my testimony, and then it was just right after that, when I come to church, that Brother Charlie asked me if I'd speak tonight, and I knew then, and I was, you know, and as the times that I've preached, I've told a few of you, you know, some of you know what I went through, and some of you know that some of just a little bit I've touched on it. But I want to tell you tonight that I'm truly, 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 truly grateful. And if you only knew where I come from, if you knew me during this time, you'd know exactly what I'm talking about. I have been delivered.
Yes.
I thank God from where He brought me from. I want to tell you tonight, I may not have a whole lot of money in the bank. I may not have a whole lot of cars sitting in my yard. But let me tell you tonight, compared to where I was at one time, I am a rich king. I want to tell you, I have come from the pit all the way up to the palace. I have lived in some trash. My kids have lived in some trash. My wife has lived in some trash. I thought, you know, as I was looking at this, and there was a scripture that come to my mind in the Psalms 40 and 2. And it says, He brought me up also out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock and established my goings. He hath put a new song in my mouth, even praise unto our God, and many shall see it, and fear and trust in the Lord. I want you to know tonight that as a kid, from as long and as far back as I can remember, and I know I've said this 100 times, I've always been made to go to church. I didn't have an option. And it wasn't if I felt good. And it wasn't if I just wanted to. And I knew not to plan nothing on church night.
Amen.
Because I will tell you, I knew on Sunday morning, I knew on Sunday night, and I knew on Wednesday night. And Lord help if there was a revival anywhere. Because I knew I was going to be there. If she went, I was going. But yet, even all through this, even as I got older and the things that I began to do, Brother Charlie had never left me. It never, ever left me. And in Proverbs it says to train up a child in the way he should go. And when he's old, he will not depart from it.
That's right.
I can tell you tonight that as a young kid, and as I, like I said, as I knew I was always made to go to church. And it didn't matter whether I wanted to or not. And I was always the kind of person that I thought in my mind I had something to prove. Because at the age of 6 years old, my daddy died. My mama raised me and my brother. Let me tell you something, you know, when you're just a young kid and you feel that you've lost your daddy and your mama's raising you, there's lots of things that other boys are doing that you ain't going to get to do. And in my mind, I thought, I've got something to prove. You know, I thought, it's up to me to be tough. It's up to me if I want to do this. I've got to do this. I've not got no male. Only one I've got is my brother. He's 6 years older than I am, and he wouldn't let me do what he done. So there was things that I done on my own. There was friends that I had that I just had to prove myself to them. I thought that I had to do what they done to fit in. There was lots of times, and like I said, there's lots of things that they done that I didn't get to do. They wasn't made to go to church. I was. But yet, when I got older, and as I began to get up into high school, and as I began to go to town, and I had a curfew. But I would leave my house and I would go to town and I would do what I wanted to do. I wouldn't ever, when I first started drinking, I wouldn't drink a whole lot because I always had to go home early. Or I would go somewhere else, I wouldn't stay at home. That was my way out, and I knew, and as I got older, I thought, I began to experience with alcohol and drinking, and I can remember we used to go buy wine coolers by the sackloads. And it wasn't long that I was with somebody one time, and the first time that I was ever around any marijuana. And I was about the 10th grade, and I tried it. I didn't really like it. I didn't like what it done to me. I didn't like the way it made my mouth feel. I didn't like it because it made me so tired and sleepy. But I knew that it was a way to get people to look at me. You see, and I had this guy that was giving me this marijuana, and I knew him real good, and I knew I could always go back over there and get it. And I used to carry it with me. And like I said, I didn't like it, but I'd pull it out with people and smoke it. Let them smoke it with me because it made me feel like somebody. You see, I took this and I used it because it made me feel big because people was coming to me wanting this. And I knew if they was coming to me, there was something about me that they liked. It wasn't nothing about me usually, it was what I had. But see, it wasn't until after I got out of high school and after I graduated in 1991, and let me tell you something, I drank and drank and drank and drank. I had a curfew, but after I graduated, I wouldn't honor that curfew. I would come in, and there was times she threatened to keep me out of the house. But Brother Charlie, I knew in my mind she wasn't going to keep me out of the house. I knew she wouldn't. She may beat me down, but she wasn't going to keep me out of the house, and I knew that. But there was times that I would come in, and if I was past my curfew, I would not come home. If it was on a Saturday night when she left to go to church on Sunday mornings, I'd haul home, run in there, take a shower, and I'd be gone before she got out of church. But I thought, that this whole time I knew that I wasn't doing right. But I remember one night after I graduated high school, I got in Vans Club. And I was drinking, and I left Vans, and they was going to have a party at the Stigler Lake, and I went to the Stigler Lake. And I give another guy a ride to the lake, and as we had sat out there at the lake, I told him, I remember telling him, I'm going home, I'm leaving. I'm tired, I can't do it no more, I gotta go. And he called me over to my truck, the first time that I ever seen anything that looked like this. He called me over to my truck, and I went over to my truck. He sat up there at the truck with me, and I remember he took a case, a tape case, and poured it out on that tape case. He took a pocket knife and he began to crunch some rocks up on it. And I sat there and watched him because I didn't know what he was fixing to do. I didn't know what it was. And as he took that pocket knife and as he lined it up, he had pulled the guts out of an ink pen and he gave it to me. That was the first time I ever done it. And I remember it burning my nose and burning my eyes, and it felt like my eyes were going to blow out of my head. And I liked it. And I remember after that night, I remember there wasn't hardly a night went by that I'd go hunt him down and get me some more. I didn't have a job. I was just working here and there. I didn't have no money. But I'd just go get me just enough to do it. And this was like in 1991. It was a year or so after I'd done graduated. And I remember after I'd done it, and I would go, and this guy, he'd always have it. He'd always get it for me or whatever. And if I didn't have no money, he'd just do something with me. But it wasn't long that I had people that knew that I could get it, and they was giving me money. I was going over here, and for me buying it from him, I was taking part of theirs and then selling them the rest of it. You see, when you get hooked, this is just how it starts, just a little bit. I wasn't raised around it. I didn't have a clue in the world what it was until that night. And I remember that night that after I'd done it, and I've always been high-strung. I've always had a bad temper. And let me tell you, this stuff and temper don't go good together. Because you get so run down. And you run and run and run so much that it finally catches up with you. I was having trouble with my mom. I was having trouble at home. I remember one time I went in the house. I don't know how long I'd been gone. And me and her began to argue and began to fuss. And she had fixed, I don't remember what she had cooked, but she had supper already cooked. She had a gallon of tea made. And I remember as we got into it, I just began swinging everything across the kitchen. Throwing the tea, throwing whatever it was that she had cooked. I was just throwing a fit. And I would never hit her, but I remember her backing me up through that door, and I remember her grabbing me. And we was sitting there arguing, and she was sitting there with her finger in my face, but I would never hit her. I kept telling her I was going to. I'm fixing to hit you if you don't get out of my face. I'm going to hit you if you don't get out of my face, but I could never do it. I was never this way to my mama. But let me tell you something, when you get this mess, you do some stupid stuff. Because I'm going to tell you, the devil has a lot of tricks.
Yes, he does.
And this is nothing more than one of his tricks. But let me tell you something, as time went on and it went like this, just me getting what I could get when I could get it. And in 1993, we was playing softball at Stigler one Saturday, and that's when I met Crystal. And I began to talk to Crystal. She didn't have a clue what I was. She didn't know no more than what I let her know. She knew I drank. That's all she knew. Well, me and Crystal began to date. It wasn't long that we got married. She didn't know what she was fixing to get herself into. You see, while we were dating, I can remember that me getting drunk and being mean to her. It didn't bother me to look her in the face and call her names or downgrade her, mentally abuse her, just talk trash to her. And you can ask her, I talked trash to her like she's a dog, and she still stayed with me. And And I remember that after we got married, and as she began to, I'd run around and go here and there, you know, and she would go with me. Wasn't long, she began to figure out what I was doing. And me and a guy was over by Kenna, and she can tell you the very same spot. We pulled over to the side of the road and we pulled it out. Began to line it up. And we made 3. And she done one. She really didn't mess with it a whole lot. She done it then, and she really, I don't know if she knew really what to think, but it wasn't long after that she got pregnant with Callie, and we began to have troubles. We split up. The whole 9 months she was pregnant with Callie, I was never around her. I never went to the doctor with her. I never called and checked on her. I never done anything with her or for her while she was pregnant. When she went in the hospital in June to have Callie, I went over there. Walked up in that room, and I can remember the look on her face. And I knew I wasn't welcome. You see, I tried to just walk right up in there and make everything all right for the last 9 months of torment that I dealt her. She couldn't do nothing the last few months she was pregnant with Callie because she was so swollen. She was bedfast. Her mom had to take care of her. She couldn't get out of bed. She had to lay in bed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I never one time called and checked on her or my baby. But yet, that day she had Callie, the day she went in to have Callie, I wanted to walk right up in there and pretend everything was all right and walk back in just like nothing. Well, after having to listen to her line me out about everything, I got to stay at the hospital to watch my baby be born. And I remember that as I'd sit there and watch Callie be born, I remember how it just broke me down. I bawled like a baby. And I thought, you know, how could I waste my life and not enjoy all this? Well, after that went on, and after me and Crystal got back together, I brought her home from the hospital, brought Callie home. We were living with her mom and dad because I didn't have nowhere to go. I didn't have a halfway decent job. And after Callie was born, I got my first job roughnecking with her dad. And then it was good money. $8.25 an hour in 1995, and I thought it was pretty good. And I knew then, I thought, well, you know, after Callie being born, I got a good job, it's time to straighten up. And we did get together, and we went to church a few times, you know, and went through everything and decided we were going to go to church, but it didn't work. It wasn't long that I was right back doing the same thing I was doing. It would always begin, though, with just drinking. It wasn't long that I went right back to where I had ended. I'd always managed to run into somebody with dope. I'd get it, and I remember taking it home. And she would always do it with me. I don't know, you know, if she felt that she had to do it to make me happy. But you see, she would always do it with me. And it wasn't long in 1997 that she got pregnant with Hadley. After she had Hadley, everything was good, you know, for a little while. We'd straighten up again. To just turn right around and go back into it again. You see, I don't know how many times we've been divorced, separated, or whatever you want to call it. A bunch. There for a long time, what we've made up the last 8 years, we were divorced and separated more than we was married. And it was all because of this trash. Because I picked it over my family. But you see, we had, after Hadley was born is when it really started, when it really got bad. Because we had lived with her mom, we had lived in town with some of her folks, had a little lady that was bedfast and couldn't take care of herself, so we had moved in to Crystal was going to help take care of her, and we had moved in that house, and I had just kind of went and drank. I would leave Crystal at home, leave her and the kids at home, take off and just go wherever I wanted to go and come home when I wanted to come home. It wasn't long that Crystal, when she got to running around with me, she would do what I done. She never did really like the drinking. But it was after Hadley was born that we had rented a house in Kennet. And I had never in my life seen anybody use a needle. Ever. I didn't know how to go about drawing it up in a syringe. I didn't know how to go about doing it. Let me tell you how I done it the first time I ever done it. I lined up a line that I would usually snort. Rolled it off in a spoon. Added a little bit of water to it. And that's what I done. Let me tell you. I don't know how long it took after I'd done it, but it was in August, and it was so hot. We had the air conditioner on in the living room, and let me tell you, after I'd done it, it was just like I broke out in a cold sweat. I couldn't focus. It was just, it looked like trees were running down the road, and I was so, I began to get so paranoid I couldn't do nothing. My heart began to race and I could feel it. Hard, just thumping. I couldn't catch my breath and I remember falling down on the floor and laying on the bed, and I told Crystal, I said, Crystal, you're going to have to do something. My asthma, I couldn't breathe, and she said, what do you want me to do? I said, I don't know. My face started drawing up. My arms and hands started drawing up. She said, let me take you to the hospital. And I said, no, you can't take me to the hospital. But my face began to draw up, and she took me and she put me in the car. She called the ambulance. The ambulance met us at Whitefield. They loaded me up in the ambulance and took me to Stigler. When we got to Stigler, my blood pressure was like 220 over 100 and something. And they put me in this room, and they had monitors all hooked up on me and had cameras on me watching me. And laying in that emergency room, I thought I was going to die. I had that mask over my face trying to get everything regulated back, and people, I don't know, they come in, they begin praying with me, and I knew, and I swore in my mind, God, if you'll get me through this. And let me tell you what happened after I began to get back to normal the next morning. As I was laying in there with all them monitors on me, Crystal was sitting there beside me, and we began pulling all that stuff off of me. And I got up and I walked out. And I knew the night before where I had thrown that dope, and I went right back to Ken, and I began walking, and I sent her to go find it. I began looking, I sent her to go look, and we found it. To just turn right around and start doing it again. And it wasn't long after that we had moved in the house out by Whitefield, and everybody in the world known it as the Blue House. I would get up in that house, and there was somebody at that house all the time. All the time. Anytime, night or day, all hours of the night, there was always people in and out. My kids, we would put them in the bedroom and just shut the door and let them cry themselves to sleep. Sometimes they wouldn't even eat before we put them in the bedroom. We didn't even own a refrigerator. What we had in an ice chest. If it was cold outside, it stayed pretty cold. If not, I had Aunt Ethel, and she would always bring food to buy. She would always come by my house and pull up at the back of my house, and she'd fill that ice chest up. And then she'd leave. See, my family, a lot of them, they would come to my house to either get my kids or something. They wouldn't even come to the house. They would get my kids and leave. There was times that Mom would pull up and I wouldn't even let her get out of the car. Because I was all wigged out, and I always, there was times that I'd open the back door, and in our back door out in the field we had a barn, and I'd kick that back door open and I'd just start shooting into that barn because I always thought somebody was in there watching me. I always thought there was people on four-wheelers outside my house. This is the kind of stuff that my kids was living in. I wouldn't let my mama come out there. I had people that would stay outside my house 24 hours a day watching for me. I had monitors set up down at the end of my driveway. I knew whenever anybody pulled up my driveway, I knew it. Nobody ever come up to my house that we did not know at first. Because when people would sit outside my house all the time and watch. My mama would get our kids, and she'd keep our kids for 2 or 3 or 4 whatever days, and she'd go buy them clothes, she'd feed them, get their hair cut, and kind of clean them up just to turn around, and I'd make her bring them back home. And this whole time, that she would bring them back home, we wouldn't let her in the house, but yet when the kids would come back in our house, what we'd do the night, put them in the bedroom, shut the door. Just so we could do what we wanted to do. It wasn't long after that Crystal got pregnant with Jackson. And I remember the night before we went to the hospital, the night before she had Jackson, sitting in the bedroom and doing drugs. And it wasn't just an hour or so. She started going into labor, and I had to take her to the hospital. They drug tested her, and they knew she had it in her. But let me tell you something. When they drug tested Jackson, it didn't show up in him, or they was going to take him away from us. And I knew then, that night, again, I told Crystal, we can't do this. Same old song and dance we'd played every other time. We're going to have to straighten up. We can't live like this. Just to get him home. After going through all that, we had to go through the Indian affairs, all kinds of stuff, just to get to bring him home the day that we got to bring him home. Couldn't see him in the hospital for 2 days because they wouldn't let us bring him to the room. They wouldn't let us see him. But after we got out of the hospital, I remember us going and getting home. And again, we'd always go back to church. Because I'm telling you, really deep down, I knew, but yet I was playing with God. Because there was something that I didn't want to give up. There was something that I just couldn't give up because I didn't have a determination. I didn't have my mind made up. Why? I don't know, and I never understood it. Because let me tell you something. Up to this point, I knew that this wasn't the way I was raised. But I can remember that even after our kids started getting grown, I would stay home with the kids. And if I had cookware or whatever we needed to go somewhere else, I would stay at home and I would make Crystal take it. If I had dope that was supposed to be picked up, or if we had something to take somewhere, I stayed home and made her take it. Because I knew if somebody got caught, she was going to be the one to get caught. It wasn't going to be me, so I'd make her go. I'd stay at home. She would go. I told her several times over and over what she needed to do. And I said, you need to do this. If you start to get caught, do this, do this. I had it all plotted out. I knew, because let me tell you, I had run a long time and never been caught. So I'd always send her. We keep needles hid in the house. We would go around the baseboards and roll back the carpet off the baseboards and line the needles up down the baseboards and then put the carpet back under the baseboards. I would take bags of dope and take a football or a basketball, cut a hole about that long in the basketball, let the air out of it, and stuff dope in it, and then kick it out across the yard. And when you looked at it, you couldn't even tell it was anything but a basketball. I thought I was a mastermind. I thought I had it all figured out. The devil had me thinking that everything was going to be all right, but let me tell you something. We got a trailer house gift to us. Her mom and dad had bought a house, and they give us their trailer house. And they give us the land that it was on, and her grandpa lived right beside us and everything. And we had a piece of land on the other side of us, and everything was good. And in that ice storm of 2000, we had left for Christmas and we went over at Mom's house, and that's when the night that the ice storm started. And before we got back to our trailer house, the roof had caved in, and everything inside the trailer house we lost just about, except for one bedroom in the end of the trailer house. One bedroom in the bathroom. You had to walk through a trash mess just around parts of the roof and junk that had caved in just to get down the hallway and get to that bedroom. They had cut the electric off because of the danger of a fire and everything, and we didn't have nothing. Now I remember us going in there and taking everything that we needed, a bed and a lamp and everything, and moving it into that back room during the spring after that ice storm of that year. And me and Crystal and the 3 kids moved in that trailer and lived in that back bedroom. I run an extension cord from my truck, from that bedroom window over to her grandpa's house, just so we could have a fan. And so we could have whatever we needed. We just plugged it in that extension cord. We lived like that for I don't know how long. Crystal and I, one day, we had some words in it, and began to be a fight and argue, and I remember I beat her up. That day it became more physical than it was just words. And I remember her grandpa calling the laws on me. I grabbed the kids and I left. And I remember that as I had grabbed the kids and she had come outside, and I had some arrows to a boat at the house, and I was putting the kids in that truck, and she stuck one of those arrows in the tires trying to get me to stop, so I couldn't go nowhere and run off with the kids. But I pushed her out of the way, and I threw the kids in that truck, and I took off. And I remember I had left, and I had run the tire plumb off the rim driving it. And I went across some dirt roads coming from Keota to Stigler, and I remember we couldn't drive it no more because the rim had broke down and everything. And so I just ditched the truck. I grabbed the kids and I began running down the road with them. across this pasture and went to this guy's house. And I sat up in his house, and I remember sitting on the picnic table and hearing sirens going everywhere. And this guy, he come outside and he began talking to me. He said, you know the laws are looking for you? And I said, yeah, I know. He said, can I get you some water or anything? I said, yeah. He said, can I take the kids, you know, whatever? And I set the kids down. He said, the laws are going to come over here and pick you up because I called them. And it didn't bother me because they was going to come get me. Let me tell you what bothered me is because my kids was standing there. When they come up there and they walked up and they told me, said, he turned around, put your hands behind your back. I said, please don't do this in front of my kids. And they said, no. My kids was hanging on to my pants legs, and one on each pants legs, and I had to push them off, and they took my kids and they loaded them in one car and left with them, and then they loaded me up. Let me tell you something, I still didn't have my eyes open. I went to jail and I stayed for 3 or 4 days. I got out, and then in the meantime, after I had got out, Crystal and I were split up, and we'd went our separate ways because I'd beat her up and everything. And it wasn't long that after I got out, and then she had left one day and went to Whitefield, and she got stopped. And she got thrown in jail on drug charges. Well, then my mom was keeping the kids, her mom was keeping the kids and everything. I kind of tried to clean myself up. I kind of stayed off to myself and tried to do right and tried to go about cleaning myself up. But one thing led to another. She got out of jail. We got back together. Began just sneaking around doing what we were doing before. Not letting everybody know what we was doing. We was hiding it a lot better than what we were before, we thought. But see, it come down to it. Right after that, we had planned to move to Wilburton. We was going to get away from everybody. I said, I've got to get out of here. Everybody in Haskell County knows who I am. They know what I do. I can't live here no more. I got to get away. So I loaded her, me and her, we decided we were going to move, and it was just 2 or 3 days before time to move. The DHS come and took all 3 of my kids away from me. Took them. Let me tell you something, if you have never seen it, never been around it, that's one of the hardest things you'll ever do is sit and watch your kids leave. Not knowing in your mind whether you're going to get them back or not, and knowing if you do, it's going to be after a fight. You can ask Crystal. It was one of the sleepless nights that I'd ever spent in my entire life, the first night knowing that my kids was took away from me. Then my eyes began to open. Not much, but they began to open just a little bit. But I thought, this is going to be it. This is it. Well, we went to court and everything to try to get the kids back, and they had told Crystal on her drug charges she was going to have to go to rehab and everything, and then she was going to have to spend 30 or whatever days away from the kids in the rehab, and then I was going to get to go, and I had to stay with her mom or my mom. I was going to have to stay with somebody and be supervised until all this kind of passed. So I got my kids back. She got out of rehab. We went ahead and said, well, we're going to move to Wilburton. We did. I went to work back on the rig, got an apartment. Everything was going pretty good. I began drinking a little bit again. Then it wasn't long. One night I was working from 2 to 10 on the evening tire, and I remember coming home one night at 10 o'clock. And I had some dough. Me and Crystal set up and we began doing it. We done it that night, and it wasn't long. See, we knew a lot. We had met some people here and there in Wilburton that we knew we could go get it, and we began going here, going there, going here, going there, and the whole cycle began again. Jackson was just a little baby, and I can remember one morning we were laid in the bed, and I don't know, we slept all the time when we didn't have no dope. The kids just done whatever. We just let them watch TV, let them kind of fend for themselves. We'd put locks up on the tops of the doors so we knew if we was asleep they couldn't get out, but we had failed to lock that lock. And one morning somebody was beating on the door, and I don't know how long he'd been beating on it, but I opened the door, and it was the gas man or the electric man, somebody. He had Jackson in his arms. And he said, "Does this little boy belong to you?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, he was on his tricycle way down the road." All right. Go right back to bed. It wasn't long that my kids was doing without food. We had laundry piled up that you couldn't even see the washer and the dryer. We didn't have electric to run the washer and the dryer if we'd have wanted to, because it done got cut off. I done quit my job, done right back in the same mess I was doing. Callie was just getting old enough where she knew that if Jackson was in this, she knew, get out of that, Bubba, or get out of that, Hadley. She was more of a babysitter and more of a mama to them kids than a sister. And she wasn't, but I don't remember how old she was. She was up a little bit of size to her, but I don't remember how old she was, but she was taking care of the kids. She was taking care of Callie, or Hadley, and she was taking care of Jackson. And Jackson, one day there at that apartment, he had run out in front of a car and got run over. That didn't open our eyes. We had to take him to Tulsa one time, and they had to go down his throat, or they was going to try to go down in his throat. He had swallowed a nickel. And it got hung up in he couldn't eat. It blocked him off where he couldn't, when he swallowed it, his food wasn't going to his stomach. Why? Because we'd neglected what we needed to have been doing. But you see, when people would come talk to us about this stuff, we'd never seen this side of it. We was blinded to it. But through this whole thing, Mom and my family always witnessed to me every time they come. Let me tell you how bad it got when we lived at Wilburton. When I'd see them coming, I'd hide. I turned the corner one day going to the apartment, and I seen her and, I don't know, my Aunt Elsie and Mama, and I don't remember who all it was. I seen them pull in, and I seen our car doors open, and I started seeing them get out. And I turned down that road, headed to that apartment, and there was a salvage yard before you got to my house, and I said, done cut off in that salvage yard. I'd sit there, me and Crystal would sit there and look between all them cars and watch us while they'd beat on the door and they'd beat on the door. The minute they'd quit and they'd go back and they'd leave. But let me tell you something, I didn't go home then because I knew they'll go to town and they'll be back in about 5 minutes. So we'd just sit there where we was at. And it wouldn't be long, sure enough, here they come back. Pull in the driveway, beat on that door, and we'd watch them. And then that time when they left, I knew they wouldn't be back. Once they got out of sight, the coast was clear going home. But you see, I got so sick of hearing, when are you going to start doing what's right? When are you going to start living right? Let me tell you, I heard it, Brother Bill. I knew because I'd been raised in it, and I knew every time I seen her what she's going to say. You ain't living right. When you start living right, things will start looking up for you. When you start doing right, things will start turning around for you. When you start doing right, these kids will start doing better. When you start doing right, I knew it. But right there toward the end, every time I got around her, she wasn't saying nothing to me. She wasn't witnessing to me no more. She wasn't on me no more. All she would tell me when I got ready to leave is, I love you. I asked her one day, I said, Mama, have you quit praying for me? She said, nope. Nope, I still pray for you. But God told me to step back and not say another word to you. He's going to take care of it. It scared me when I thought she'd done quit praying for me. When I thought she'd quit witnessing to me, it scared me. Even though it got on my nerves, I couldn't stand to go to her house and her not say something about it. All she would say when I got ready to leave is, I love you. And you may tell you something, you never know how scared I was when something would happen that I would always think the Lord had come back. If I called and I couldn't get a hold of somebody and I called this one or called that one, that was the first thought I had in my mind. I missed it. But you see, that day over in that apartment, so we had a knock on the door, and as we'd opened the door, it was the Latimer County Sheriff's Department, and they come looking for Crystal. Said they had warrants out for her, and they said they knew that this was her address and that she was here, and she was standing there, and they said, and she said, yeah, here I am. They took her to jail, and there me and the kids sat. Nothing. I mean, I'm telling you, nothing. A dark apartment. When it got dark, it was dark. I had a propane tank that I kept one of them catalyst heaters on that I would use for heat. We had lanterns and battery-operated lanterns that we used for lights. And I remember sitting there in that chair a couple of days while she was in jail. And I would just sit there and I wouldn't do nothing. I would just sit there because God had begun dealing with me something crazy. I had no dope. I had no money. I had no alcohol. My wife was in jail. I had no electric. Let me tell you something. I was just about as low as I knew that I could get. And as I sat there with them kids on my lap, and I sat there, God began dealing with me. He dealt with me all night long, and the next morning when I was sitting in that chair, and I got a phone call. The neighbor had come over there, and she said, I've got a phone call. You need to go pick Crystal up. They're going to OR her out. I remember gathering up them kids, pulling up there in front of the Sheriff's Department at Latimer County, and Crystal was standing out there waiting on me, and she got in the car, and I looked at her, and I said, Crystal, I've got to have a change. Let me tell you something, them words meant more to me that day than they ever had in my life. She looked at me and she said, I was thinking the same thing. I said, Crystal, I got to get saved. And she said, let's go. We left Wilburton and we come all the way to Stigler, and my mom was down at the Pentecostal church, the Holiness Church, at some kind of a meeting. And I remember pulling in the parking lot. And I sat there and I looked at Crystal and I said, go get her. Tell her to come out here. And she said, you go get her. And I said, Crystal, I am not about to go up in there. I wasn't even going to church. So I walked up there and I opened the door and I stuck my head in and I said, Alice! And here she come. I told her, I said, Mama, I've got to get saved. I said, me and Crystal is ready to give in. I said, I've had it. I can't take it no more. I'm done. I had long hair and nasty looking. I remember having overalls on, Red Wing boots, and a tank top shirt cut off. let me tell you something. We got down and she called the pastor and his wife, and they'd come down, and we had went to Mama's house and got in, and I was sitting in the living room when he showed up, and he said, Heath, what can I do with you? I began to talk to him. Told him, I said, I've been fighting drugs and alcohol, everything. I've had everything took away from me. Everything stripped from me. I ain't got nothing. This is all I've got right here. But I said, I'm sick of it and I'm ready for a change. Crystal told him the same thing. He said, well, let's bow and let's pray. And I remember kneeling and taking my hat off and laying it down and kneeling down in the floor at Mama's house and right there in the living room, Brother Charlie. And I remember crying out like I'd never cried out before. I'd been saved before, but it wasn't like this. Because I want to tell you something. I began to feel the power of God come down from the top of my head, and I mean literally go plumb down through my body. And I knew when I got up that day, I knew there'd been a change in my life. The addictions, I knew that day, that very minute, I knew that meth and alcohol and everything that I'd been bound up in had left and would not ever be back. I knew because I felt it in my body.
Yes.
I knew that addiction had been broke that quick. There have been times that I had tried to quit. Crystal had been to rehab. I would quit just for a little while, and I always had the urge. I always knew whenever I got around it, I wanted it, I craved it. If I didn't have it for so long, there was days that I just couldn't stand it. I craved it. I knew I wanted it. But let me tell you, that day after that, it was a week that went by, still I didn't want it. Then 2 weeks had went by, still I never even had the unction for it. 3 weeks had went by, I still didn't want it. 4 weeks was a month and I went by and I still didn't want it. I knew that God had delivered me. And let me tell you, to whom the Son has set free is free indeed. He will not be bound up again. I want you to know today that sin is sister, brother, whoever you are, if there's something that you're facing, some kind of an addiction, I want you to know today that the Son of God can set you free. I don't care how many times you have tried to quit. Let me give you somebody. Let me introduce you to somebody that I know that once you get a hold of him and once he gets through with you, it will not ever, you will not want it, it will not ever torture you again.
Amen.
Glory to God. Yes.
That was in February of 2002, and Brother Bill, I hadn't touched it since. I hadn't had a drink of alcohol. I hadn't even had to want to. Let me tell you tonight that God set me free. He set me free. He set me free. The chains was broke, and it was not. Never again was I dependent on it no more.
Thank you, Lord.
Never wanted it again. Never again.
Glory. Hallelujah.
You see, every other time, when I get in a bind, I'd go fall right back into it. Because I was trying to do it on my own. But let me tell you, I understood that day when Mama said, God told me to back off and let him do it. Because let me tell you, when he got through with me, I knew that I'd been had a hold of. I knew that I wasn't going to be able to run. I'd went as far as I was going to be able to go. But I got saved. Crystal got saved. Let me tell you, it ain't been a bed of roses. We've had troubles and we've still had trials. God has always seen me through.
Yes. Hallelujah.
Let me tell you, there was people that we done drugs with and made statements. He'll be back. He'll be back. Because every other time I did, except for this time, they're still sitting there looking for me to come back. But I want you to understand today, church, that it don't matter what you're facing, what you might have going on in your family. You just keep standing fast. You see, she prayed. I had family, friends, and everybody praying for me. I don't know how long they prayed for me, but it was a long time. And it wasn't something that happened overnight. But when it did happen, it happened. And I can stand up here and tell you today that after what all I've been through, I've not ever thought about turning and going back. I don't want it.
Glory.
They can say I'm crazy and say what they want to say.
That's it.
But until you've walked a mile in these shoes, you don't know where they done come through.
That's right.
You don't know what they done, where they done been. And let me tell you tonight, church, just like I said at the beginning, I may not have a whole lot of money in the First National Bank, but I'm as rich as a king tonight because my name has been written down in the Lamb's Book of Life, and I'm saved tonight. And I know that I'm on my way to heaven. And I know tonight that if something was to happen before I lay my head down tonight or before I raise my head up in the morning, I know that I'll be stepping in the kingdom of heaven because I've been sanctified, I've been glorified, and I know that I've been resurrected and the old man has already passed away, and I am a new man today because my name has been written down. I may look the same, I may still wear the same clothes, but let me tell you tonight that I have been changed in a moment and in the twinkling of an eye. He changed me from death unto life because I tell you today, when I stepped out of that old garment and into them new clothes, I'm telling you that God cleaned me up and He set me, He brought me up out of the miry pit and set my foot up on a rock. He had put a new song in my heart and everybody is going to see it. Let me tell you today that whatever goes through this body, whatever happens to me, let God be the glory. God saved me.
Amen.
In February and in April, my mom had been having some tests. They thought her cancer had come back. I began praying. I said, God, I'll do whatever you want me to do if you heal my mama. God, I'll do whatever you want to do if you'll heal my mama. She went for tests and tests and tests and tests. Her tests come back clear. I said, God, what do you want? He began dealing with me to preach. I went for a long time and I fought it and I fought it and I fought it. I said, God, you don't want me to preach. Began praying, God, show me if this is what you want. Let me know. Let me know this is what I'm supposed to be doing, Lord. I didn't tell nobody. Crystal and me is the only two that knew. One Sunday morning, I was sitting in church at Stigler. The Lord began dealing with me. It's time for you to preach. It's time for you to preach. I got up during Sunday school. I left and I went home. I began praying in that bedroom. I prayed till almost noon, and I got up. I went back to church. I said, Lord, if this is what you want, please, Lord, you show me that this is for sure. Give me, Lord, show me something else. Something where I know that it's got to be you. I walked back in at 11:45 and the preacher was just fixing to get altar call. I sat on the second pew on that row that we were sitting in, and I sat there just like this. There was a little lady that sat on the front row on the very far corner, and I sat on the second row on the other side of the church. She got up and she walked over there and she leaned up in my ear and she said, "Brother, I don't know what it is, but God said it's time for you to step out and do what He told you to do." She got up and went right back over to her seat, and I knew then. I said, "Okay, God." That was on a Sunday morning. That Wednesday night, or that Thursday night, I preached my first message at Briartown. Let me tell you something, church. If what I've been through will touch one person, it'll be worth everything. But you see, let me tell you something. You may not have went through what I went through, but God loves you just the same. You may have a whole list of stuff way greater than what I've been through. God still loves you. And I want to tell you tonight, Jesus is the only way. Amen. Crystal tried rehab. Man can't do it. God can. You see what they spent 30 days working on Crystal, God done it in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And it still didn't work what they done to her in 30 days. What God done in 5 minutes has worked 8 years.
Amen.
Talk to us in 8 more years and it'll still be working.
That's right. Amen.